Don't worry about it. So thank you for coming. We're real fortunate today to have Dennis Fotia from the newly created Department of E-Learning, I guess, is what it is now.
Pets.
And Marissa's announcing herself, Marissa Levy from Criminal Justice, Associate Professor of Criminal Justice. And the session today is really focused, I know Computer Services has done quite a bit on kind of the technical aspects of Turnitin, but Marissa has really been using Turnitin to good effect to enhance her teaching, and Dennis is well versed in the use of Turnitin too. So I'm not going to take any more of your time. I really want you to hear from them. So Dennis is going to start us off, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis. And eat cookies.
Well, thanks everybody for coming by. How many people are here are familiar with Turnitin? Okay, so about half. Well, Turnitin is a great plagiarism deterrent system. There's a number of different things you can do with it, and Marissa and I are going to show you that today. So let me first begin by showing you how you can actually use Turnitin in terms of creating an assignment that will actually use the Turnitin system. And just new for this semester, fall 2013, Stockton added a building block within the Blackboard system where you can actually create and add a Turnitin assignment. So some of this may seem a little bit backwards before it's forwards, but for those of you who are not familiar with Turnitin, but you'll see the assignment first, and then Marissa is going to actually then show actually how to grade an assignment. So let me first go to Blackboard, and I'm assuming everybody knows how to log into Blackboard. bbweb.stockton.edu is a direct way into Blackboard. Also, if you go to the Go Stockton portal, you can access Blackboard right here. And if you're actually in the portal as an instructor and you've logged in, you can also find Blackboard under the Faculty tab right here under My Courses. There's an icon for Blackboard. So I've opened a number of windows here, and it's already logged me in, so let's pretend we're already going in. And at Stockton, every course that you teach in a given semester has a Blackboard section attached to it. So I'm teaching a general studies course this semester called History of Television in America. Whatever course it is that you want to use Turnitin in, you want to go to that. Now for today, I'm going to use a course development area, so pretend this is your course. Intro to Psych or Intro to Sociology or whatever it is. When you first get to Blackboard, you're either going to land on a content page, a course content page, or actually a dashboard. You want to actually go to a course content page, and if you don't have one, over here on the left you can simply add a content area, and we can call this content for workshop. And you want to click available to the users and hit submit, and then you'll actually notice it down here, content for workshop. That's how I got this page called course content page. Does anybody have any questions about that so far? So then let's move on. And here you'll notice that I already created a link to a Turnitin assignment. And that was because I uploaded a paper and I needed to give Turnitin at least 24 hours to actually process the paper and create an originality report. But starting from scratch, we're simply going to go to the Assessments tab. And now you'll notice, for those who have used Blackboard before, that there's something called a Turnitin assignment. So let's click Turnitin assignment. Now, what you don't see right here is the first time you've logged on in Blackboard, it's going to ask you to sign your user agreement form, that you agree to their terms and conditions. You either have to sign it or you can't use Turnitin. I already signed it. And you'll note that it then brings you a window to choose between a paper assignment, a peer mark, or a revision. A paper assignment is a standard type of assignment in Turnitin. Students are going to submit a paper. You want Turnitin to actually compare that paper to all papers in their repository, which includes journals, other students' papers, internet sources, etc. And then students would be able to look at both the originality report, and you can also add grade comments, both voice comments as well as grade comments. A peer mark assignment is an assignment that you create that you want other students to be able to review and view other students' work and also make comments. And then a revision assignment would be an assignment where, let's say you have a draft due on October 1st, and you want students to submit a paper. You're going to offer comments, they're going to see an originality report, and then they have a final draft or a revision of that due, let's say November 1st or November 15th. So it allows you to be able to do that, and students don't have to write over their papers. They both see the original draft paper and the revision. For now, I'd like to use the paper assignment as our example for today. So the first thing we're going to do is it brings you to a page. It asks you to title this assignment, and why don't we call this IFD Workshop. And that got a little trigger happy there, so we're going to have to go back. I apologize. We're going to go back to Turnitin. It seemed to submit on its own, because I wanted to show you other things here. So let's call it, how about Turnitin IFD? And let's just pretend this paper is worth 10 points. You'll notice that immediately Turnitin chooses today's date as the start date. The start date is the date that students can actually first submit papers to turn it in. The due date is the date that you want students that the papers are due. For the sake of this system, it always makes it a week later, but obviously you're going to actually go into the calendar and you're going to choose the due date you want for this assignment. And the post date, which is always confusing, and Marissa can probably explain this better than I can. She's helped me out with this before. But the post date is the date that you want students to first be able to view any grade mark comments. It has nothing to do with Blackboard or when grades appear in Blackboard. It is simply when students first are able to view grade mark comments. It automatically sets it for, it seems, a day after the due date. For the sake of this workshop, I'm actually going to trick it, and I'm going to go into today, and I'm going to put it at, it's start at 10:09, I'm going to make it at like 10:15 or something. And when you go into optional settings, any text that you want to appear associated with that icon that you may have noticed that I created, you want to put here. So please follow this link to submit papers for your midterm, blah, blah, blah. And now, even though you've created a due date, it asks you if you want to allow the system to accept submissions after the due date. That's up to you. That's a pedagogical choice. I know with some draft assignments, I tell students that I do not allow them to submit after due date. If they want to actually submit a draft and they want me to review it, and they want points for the draft, it's a learning experience for them. If they can't meet the date for the draft assignment, then they're just going to simply turn in the final draft of the assignment. That's up to you. Yes or no? Generate originality reports or submissions. The originality report, which Marissa is going to show you, is the document that will show you by both percent and by individual portions of the paper how the paper is similar to other submissions in the Turnitin repository or library, so what you might want to say. So I have this set to yes. I do want to generate originality reports. I want to use this in Blackboard for more than just a place to submit papers. Then you have a choice. Do you want that report submitted immediately when students upload a paper, or do you want it, immediately when they upload the paper, which would mean that the minute they upload the paper, an originality report would be generated, and students would not be able to upload the paper again. Another originality report would not be generated. I usually choose immediately on my regular paper assignments. So that way, if a student uploads a paper tomorrow, and they look at the originality report and see that it's like 85%, and then they realize when they look at the sections that are highlighted that they haven't properly cited their sources, that gives them an opportunity before the due date to change their paper and resubmit. But the choice is up to you as an instructor. You can also simply have the originality report generated on the due date for the paper. I think that's a question of when will you have to ask yourself, when will you start grading papers? But for now, I'm just going to leave it on immediately Canova reports till due date. And Marissa may be able to speak to exactly how she uses this as well, which will give you a different perspective. You can then choose what types of items do you want the Turnitin repository to actually highlight and compare the student's paper to. Bibliographic materials, quoted materials, small matches. So you have to think about in terms of the type of paper that you're having students write, your content, subject matter, etc., and determine that. So for now, I'm not going to exclude bibliographic materials. I'm not going to exclude quoted materials, because even if I see something in quotes, I want to be able to, sometimes as an instructor, I want to be able to look and see if they've still cited it properly. And that's something that I'll quickly note real quick, if because it's in quotations. I want to also see, are they cutting and pasting quotations and citing it, but is there any originality in their writing, etc. You can also choose to exclude small matches or not to exclude small matches, and that you're going to have to know based on the type of paper. You certainly don't want of and the and to be highlighted all the time. Allow students to see originality reports. I would say if you're using this as a plagiarism deterrent device, you absolutely want to show students, or have students be able to view their originality reports. You can choose to reveal the grades to students only on the post date. That's the grade that you're actually going to submit when you grade the paper and turn it in. And then you can sync that, and it shows up in your Blackboard grading grade column or grade book, which is great. The default here is to submit papers to the standard paper repository. If you were to choose no repository, you would simply be using this as an upload tool for students to view papers. And for you to view them, there would be no originality report generated and no comparison. So I'm going to leave that on standard paper repository. And then it allows you to say, what do you want this paper compared to? All other papers that have been submitted to Turnitin, which is a student paper repository. Current and archived internet. I teach a television history course, and students do a lot of work on the internet, and they cite a lot of sources on the internet, so I keep that one selected. And periodicals, journals, and publications. I just choose them all. But you can certainly deselect those as you choose. You can also create a rubric. Marissa, do you use the rubric in Turnitin? I don't. And let me just say, and this is personal, but I prefer the Blackboard grading rubric, and I'm going to show you how you can use Blackboard's grading rubric for this Turnitin assignment as opposed to Turnitin's grading rubric. So I'm just going to leave it at no rubric for now. If you have any questions about using that, certainly feel free to contact me. You can also use the ETS, or Education Testing Service, settings to actually also do grammar checking. So if you also want the paper to highlight grammar, corrections, etc., spelling, usage mechanics, and style, you can also use that. And if you do choose to use that, you can select at the bottom here, categories enabled, if you just want to leave it just as spelling or grammar, mechanics, style. So we're almost here. And then you can also choose, are these the defaults that you want to automatically come up every time you create another Turnitin assignment. So I'm just going to hit submit. And you get a nice little thing here that your assignment was added. And then here, you'll see the actual assignment, Turnitin IFT. You'll see the comments or the text that I wrote. Please follow this link to submit papers for your midterm. And as an instructor, if you want to edit the text associated with this link, you would be going back to here and simply choosing edit. and then going back to optional settings, and then adding the text there. So, let me go back here. So, when a student logs in now to Blackboard, and let me just show you real quick from the student's perspective how they're going to upload papers. Hello. I had to log out because, and I'm logging in as a test student, so everybody has a test account. They simply need to add that account. But if your student was going into your Blackboard course, and they would go on to Fotia DO2, whatever course, here they would see the assignment and turn it in, and from a student's perspective, they would click View or Complete. And I must tell you, the first thing a student will see, but I've already used it, so it's not going to come up, is a user agreement screen. And then here, the student will see, just like they would if they'd gone to Turnitin, similar, the assignment. If they hover over the info, they're going to see any text that you wrote for the assignment. Please follow this link. And they're also going to see that late paper submissions are not allowed, resubmissions are allowed, based on the sentence. And they'll see the start date, post date. And then they hit submit. And it automatically in Blackboard, which is very nice, it populates the student's name, their last name. They do have to give their paper a particular title. I'm going to say blah, blah, blah. Not because student writing is blah, blah, blah or anything, but just because they just want to do that. And from here, they could choose to grab a paper from their computer, from a Dropbox, or from Google Drive. So that's very nice. And you can upload a paper. They would hit upload, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to upload a paper because it won't actually create an original report that quick. What is nice is when a student does hit submit, they do see a preview window of their paper, and it asks them one more time to submit. And then they actually get a digital receipt emailed to their go.stockton address. Is that the old way too? Mm-hmm. So if you have a student that says they submitted a paper to Turnitin, and you don't see it, ask them to forward you the receipt that they got.
And the question, the one about resubmissions there, Dennis, that was that provision where you said if they upload it, get a report, and see that they want to revise, then they're allowed to resubmit it. So
right.
that
As opposed to immediately. Is that correct from your understanding?
Yes. The one thing I would say at this screen, though, it's important, and Dennis isn't going quite that far because he's not clicking upload, but the place where the students get hung up is that after this screen, when he clicks upload, then it goes to another screen where it's not submitted. The student has to then agree that that's the right file by looking at it, and then click submit. So they could get to this part, think, I clicked upload, it's done, and it's not there. So you may want to put something in your syllabus that says, make sure you get your receipt, or you should also have your receipt, or something like that, because otherwise, I mean, 9 times out of 10, they think it's uploaded. If you click upload, they think it's there.
Yeah, and I just for sake of time, I mean, I could show you uploading a paper. I mean, do you think I should? I'd uploaded the paper that you sent me, but
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about that? Well, so once a student does submit, they will see the screens that Marissa said, and if they do it successfully, they'll get that digital receipt sent to their Stockton email address. And then I want to show you then as an instructor now. So let me actually log out as the student and log back in as instructor. I want to show you how you would then go find the papers in your course to grade them, and then I'll let Marissa show you originality report and show you how to use GradeMark. So as an instructor, this is my assignment here. This link by the way, let me just mention this link, the only way to make this link not visible is to hide it within a content folder. So in other words, even though you've set parameters to make uploads only available right now, or let's say you want to make it available next week, and you've built your class at the beginning of the semester, if you don't want students to see this link and submit papers before a certain time, you could simply, and I should have mentioned this before, you could actually create a content folder. And then you could put that folder, you could put that link to Turnitin here. You could move it into that folder and then make that folder only available at a certain date. I should have mentioned that before, and I apologize. So now let's go look at what it looks like as an instructor to find papers and get ready to view originality reports and grade them. You go under Course Tools, and you're going to scroll down to Turnitin Assignments. And then Blackboard will bring you to a screen with all, and I've created a number of them in this course because I've done a number of workshops, so I apologize for seeing a lot. But every type of Turnitin assignment you've created in Blackboard in this particular course will be visible. And then the one I've used today, I think, was called Turnitin IFD, but I submitted a paper yesterday to IFD workshops. I think it is, yeah. And so what you're going to see right away is you'll see all the students here, and you'll be able to see their names, their titles. You'll immediately be able to see the originality report or similarity. And you'll be able to actually go and grade a paper as well. Now, this particular paper has been uploaded before, and that's the reason why it's showing up as 100% similarity. So let me actually go in and change that. Sorry. As you can see, this was completely submitted. I did this in that.
If you just click next to this,
Where am I?
next to the 100, the one that you
Submit
want
it through
to
Richard's stock and click that.
delete.
Oh,
Yeah, right
yeah,
there,
that
and
would
then
really
it's-
help. Yeah, that would
yeah.
help. Sorry about that. Okay, this is good. Now it went to 4%. This was, the student did not plagiarize herself. So now you don't have to do that. I just did that. I should have done. I apologize. I should have done that before. I thought I had done that the other night because I was able to get the paper 10 at 4%.
You probably did, but then it's probably still open for submissions, so it deletes what you did until the final due date.
Okay. And then let me, I think I've sync grades. Okay. That should mean that when I, oops, I went the wrong sync. Okay. So now when I've gone to this particular assignment, right person, why did it do that? Oh, I went to the wrong one, sorry. I'm confusing myself, so there we go. That's how I should have had it, so that when I went to this right now, you would see it. So now you'll see all the students, you'll be able to see the titles of their papers. You would immediately see an originality report similarity percentage, and everything else you'll need to know about the paper. And then really from here, I think Marissa, you can, if you'd like, she can show you how to view the originality report, and she will show you that, and actually then also use GradeMark. And then there's just one comment I'll show about syncing grades.
Is there a default at which that little bar goes from green to red? When does?
There is a color scale on there. So it will be a rainbow of red being at the highest. So this is pretty low. If it was a 0, it'd be blue. It'd be completely cold, with red being completely hot. So if we go to grade, and this is in Dennis's. So, okay, here we go. I'm actually going to I'll show you a couple things using this one, and then I'm going to flip over to my summer course. That paper that Dennis uploaded was a student from my summer class who gave me permission to show her improvement over time and sort of how grade mark helped her. So I'm going to go into my portal to talk to you about the grade mark part. But in the originality part here, you can see that obviously if the student plagiarizes him or herself, that's going to come up as well. However, there is a setting in GradeMark where you can go in when you create the assignment. So I don't know if you noticed when Dennis created the assignment, when you go to, if I want to create a new assignment, then I can say that I want to create a completely new paper, or I can say that it will give me an option.
You want, probably doing course content page.
Not familiar with
They
your-
go to course content on the top left. Yeah, and then actually,
Is that different on Blackboard?
yeah, they go to assessment and create a new Turnitin assignment.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So you can create a peer mark assignment or a revision assignment. So in my G course, where I have them submit drafts first and then submit final papers, the first paper is going to be under paper assignment because that's the first place. But then when they're going to revise it, Turnitin calls it a revision assignment. I actually don't like that nomenclature because to me I would rather have like it's a draft and then final. So I have to put in my syllabus, very clearly that your final goes under revision assignment. But if you click on revision assignment, then it's going to tell you in the next step which one is it. It's based on which paper. So I can then say, well, the revision is based on the one Dennis just created, the IFD workshop paper. And that way, when you go through and you see the actual Turnitin screen, it's not going to look like it's plagiarized because it knows it's pulling the paper from that same student's first paper. When you do get to the originality part here, these parameters were all set by Dennis. So he wrote in to exclude, small cases. So if you put in there to exclude anything less than 10 words, it's not going to pull up anything on here that would be less than 10 words. Even if they took a direct quote, but that quote was only 7 words, it's not going to pull that up in the document. It's pretty easy to see. They match up color coding, so you can see that this comes from this one. If I scroll down a little bit, it looks like that's the only one she has. So if it had come from other sources, it color codes them so that if there was another one that was matching to another internet source, it would show you the line in purple that was matching to the purple source. If you click through the source, then, and it brings you to this, it will show you exactly what the source looks like and the part that came from that source. And then you can view the full source to see exactly where it came in that source. So if you wanted to read it, and this is, of course, if it's an online source that's available, and it'll show you, here's the page of where they got this from. If the PDF is also available, which in this one it looks like it's not, it will give you a link where you could click on the PDF if it was publicly available. This one is a journal that I use in one of my class in my G course, and it's not publicly available as PDF, but Turnitin has captured some of it here. And you can go through and look at all of them. You will see many times, and at least in my experience, that students who have submitted other papers at other schools will also appear. I think it's pretty unlikely that the student at Stockton plagiarized from someone from like San Jose State, but I guess it's possible. This is the place where I think that faculty have to use your brain. You have to think about, what is logical. Yes, could it be from a paper mill? Sure. But if it's 5 words in a sentence, is it likely that that came from a paper mill? Probably not. And actually, I take plagiarism really seriously, but this is sort of where I differ from the traditional person, I think, who uses Turnitin. I don't use Turnitin as a way to nab students on plagiarism. I use Turnitin in my courses that are writing courses to help the students learn how to properly cite. If in my online course, they're doing 3 papers. On the first one, if they're not citing properly, but it's not a copy and paste job. I'm not talking copy and paste jobs. I'm going to report a copy and paste job. But if it comes up with something that wasn't properly cited in the first couple papers, I'm going to show them the proper way to cite using grade mark. I'm going to put my own comments in there and I'm going to show them. I'm not going to just automatically report that to academic affairs. There are different styles and your style is completely up to you. But I don't use it as a gotcha tool. I use it as I think this is plagiarized, and I click on it, and in fact it is plagiarized, and then it's easier for me instead of having to go to the library and find exactly the source. And I use it as an educational tool so that they can learn. Now, if they're still doing that stuff on assignment 3, then there's a problem because they clearly haven't learned anything, and the point of the course is that they're learning how to write. So that's something that I feel pretty strongly about. When we did a workshop last year, I think in the summer, there was a lot of heated debate and not everybody in the classroom agreed with me, and that's, okay. But I really don't use it as a way to just, sort of dig into the students. Also, just as a sidebar, I do let the students see their reports before they turn it in, so for the final draft, so they could see it, and they can make changes. But Turnitin does not allow them to continually do that. They could not submit it 2 days prior to the due date and continue to turn it in 30 times until it's not plagiarized anymore. The first time they submit it, if you let them see Turnitin's comments, they will get a score pretty quickly, within probably 10, 15 minutes sometimes sooner. But after that time, it's 24 hours until they're going to see it again. So a lot of faculty say, well, I don't want them to do that because then they're just going to keep changing it until it's not plagiarized. They can't do that. It's a 24-hour cycle. Now, they can do that if they're going into the student version of Turnitin and they're paying a monthly fee, because Turnitin is a profit-making company. So this is the faculty side where we catch plagiarizers. But there's a student side where they can use Turnitin, I forget what it's called on the student side, and they can pay a monthly fee to submit papers as many times as they want for that month or for that year. So it's not only our friend, but it's the student's friend.
So then, Marissa, if they did wait the 24 hours, wouldn't another originality report?
Yep, then they would get another originality report, and then they could make changes and they could resubmit again. But again, it's not going to be immediately. Right. It's going to be another 24 or so hours. I've seen it like less than that.
So they can only have the number of opportunities as there are days between when they start and
right. Yes. Which is, a balance on that, unless they pay for the other side of that.
And I don't know about you, I do let my students know ahead of time, please, the sooner you upload a paper, the sooner you're going to view an original report, it may be able to help you determine if you've cited your sources properly, if you've made sure you've cited all your sources. And that's also a way to say that if they see something that's copied in a particular area and then they're reminded that they took it from somewhere else, but then they look and they didn't cite it, I kind of find that helpful. I don't know if you feel the same, but then they obviously would have to then wait, I guess, 24 hours when they resubmit it to see another.
So what's going on like inside the program that so if it's properly cited, it won't be recorded as plagiarized? Is that?
If you click off the button that says exclude quotes, so they have quotations
Gotcha.
around the material, you could do that, and then if it's properly cited, at least with the quotes, the citation might not be right, but the quotes are there, then it will exclude that.
Okay. Do you use it that way, or do you not use it that way?
I use it that way because because I'm trying to teach them better writing, I only allow them to do one direct quote per paper. So I will use it just so that I can see easily where all their quotes are. So the first thing that I do when I go and review an assignment is I'll go through and I'll highlight all the direct quotes and I'll say quote frequency, too much direct quoting. I want you to write the paper. But I actually go back and forth, and I will turn, I'm going to show you when I get into Caitlin's paper, I'll actually turn off the originality part when I'm actually grading, because it's distracting to me. It kind of bothers me. When I'm in the grade mark part, which I'm going to show you next, you can turn on originality. If you see when you highlight each of these areas, that becomes the predominant screen. I can put on grade mark, which is what I'm going to show you, and then I can click this little dot for originality, and now you can see that the originality is behind it. It highlights it behind it. But the main function right now is that I'm in grade mark. I'm in the grading area for it. So I can still look at that, and as I'm scrolling through the paper, I can see all of those areas that are red or pink. Caitlin doesn't have too many, or I commented over them, which is probably more likely. And then I can actually, say if they have too many direct quotes. This is one of the problems. So sometimes I'll keep it on in the background while I'm looking at other things. Once I've noted all of those areas, if there are any, then I turn it off and I focus just on the grading part. Before I get into the grading part, do you have other questions on the plagiarism part of it? Okay. So grade mark is actually, though I started using Turnitin years ago when we got a college subscription, the part that I like best about Turnitin is actually grade mark. It allows me to get students' feedback much quicker than if I had to do handwriting. For example, in my grad class, I struggled for the first couple years. We meet once a week. So I was thinking, okay, if I have them turn in their assignments on the day that we meet, then I can't get them feedback on that assignment until the next week, right? Because I'm seeing them and then I'm going to grade them the next time. With Turnitin, I can have them upload the assignments on Tuesday. My class is on Thursday. So they can upload on Tuesday. I grade on Wednesday. They have feedback by my next class. That way they have feedback before we go into the next topic, which in stats is crucial because everything builds on what you've learned before. So I was using Turnitin just as a tool for collecting the assignments because it was easier to download than Blackboard at the time. And then GradeMark started last summer, and I've just been a huge advocate because as I get older, my handwriting gets worse. It's easier to do things on the screen. Honestly, it's less paper to carry home. I don't have to carry anything home. I have everything here. So one of the best things is Dennis did click off that we get ETS comments. So you can see here all of the blue comments were things that ETS automatically generated on the paper. Remember Dennis said style and grammar, and he had all of those, I think it's 5 or 6 options checked. Those will automatically be generated in blue. I don't always agree with them. So I can always go back, and then if I agree, if I don't think this is awkward, I can just click off and I can throw it away. And actually that's incorrect. Mine are blue and grade marks are in purple. So you can see their little ETS logo on the side. So all of theirs are in purple and these would be automatically generated. If I don't like these, I can though dismiss them. And I can just get that and say, no, this is not a run-on if I want to do that. So when I first graded Caitlin's paper, these purple would automatically be there. What you see in the blue comments are, they call it a toolbox in Turnitin, and that's what I've created for each of my classes. So what you see here is actually not the toolbox for this class. But if you click on this little toolbox icon, and I have actually from the workshop I did last January, I have point and click directions, which I can send to you, Bill, and if you want to send them out, you could do that. So I have basically a toolbox for each class that I teach. So if I want my crime as a social construct tools, I can make that the active set. That's my online class set. And I have different things to say for those students because it's not a math class. So I'll have different things in here as well. And I can add things like, awkward comment or, it looks like, yeah, there we go. Okay. So in here, I've created all kinds of comments for the writing. So that each time I see something, if the student has directly quoted, too much or improperly, I can drop it and drag it in. So one time I set this up and I typed in, this is an improper quote. For a direct quote, you need this kind of format on here, and then you shouldn't have any first initials, blah, 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 because we do APA.
Can you set up APA as the default?
Yes.
So it'll automatically go to that first if you want.
It will go to that first, and it will tell you in some of the citation, it'll tell you to refer to an APA manual, and you can click here, but it doesn't give you the kind of examples that I would want to give my students by actually saying, like, you need to have the ampersand in there, and you need the year, and that kind of, like, nitty-gritty detail. So you can drop and drag comments in wherever you want them that you've created. You can also use ones that are generic ones that come from Grademark. So there are all of these commonly used composition marks. All of those that I haven't created come from Grademark and our standards. So if you don't want to create your own, you can use something that's right from Grademark until you add in your own. That's fine too. This has helped me tremendously because where I would want to write, here's the proper way to cite, the text, Kapler and Potter, blah, blah, blah. But I don't have to type that every time. I can just click it over and drag it to where it needs to go. I can also, if I'm in this bubble area, I can also highlight text. And then I can write a new comment. Recently they just added color codes. So you could color code it if you have a system that you want all of these types of comments to be in pink. So I can do that. I can write, if I click the text tool, I can write on the paper if I want to just get something, right in there so they can see exactly where I mean. So I think that has been tremendously helpful for me. When you're done grading the paper, so you notice down here I'm in QM, which is quick marks. If I go over to the next bubble, this is where I can leave a comment for my students. What I do is the night before I grade the papers, I type out a list of things I think I'm going to tell them. If it was the worst possible paper ever in each category, I make a list of all the things I would say in that category. And Caitlin knows she did not do well on the first paper. She continued to increase throughout. But this, for the first paper, is huge. It could be like a whole page single-spaced. And then I will go through and I will delete the things that don't apply to the student. That way I don't have to type this whole thing over and over again. And then I will, and this is sort of how I use my rubric.
And Marissa, is that already, I've never used that text comment in this way, but is it, how do you preload it? Are you copying and pasting?
I'm copying and pasting from Word. I type it all in Word. It won't save it for
I
you.
didn't think so, okay.
No, I've asked. They can do that next time. I was one of their test pilot people, so I asked them if, this would be something good that you're missing. And so I don't know if they'll take my suggestion, but so this would be like my rubric, and the students have this in the syllabus. They know the types of things I'm grading on. They know how many points they're getting for each thing. I take my rubric, I expand upon it, I copy and paste it in here. Then the voice comment is really awesome. I can leave comments for students, especially in my online class.
Hi Caitlin, as I mentioned below, you made incredible progress from draft to the final paper.
So I can leave them voice comments, and I can sort of reiterate things that I think are important, or if it was a particularly bad paper, I can say, look, I can tell you're really trying, I want to help you more, can you come to my office, etc., etc. And I can leave them a voice comment. When the student sees, when they log into Turnitin, this is what they will see. They will see purple comments from ETS, blue comments from you. They will see, the first thing they'll see on the right-hand side is your note. No matter how you leave the screen, that's what they'll see first. And they'll see the voice comment. So this is the screen that will default when they log in. They can also download, which I think is pretty cool. Well, you can see some stats about when they actually upload it.
And that's actually, I was just saying, one of the first things I do, because I have a minimum number of words required in my text, I always go to the information icon first and
Okay.
scan real quick and look at the word count, I look at the submission date, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I might
I
say,
like that.
like if it appears really rushed and they missed 3 of the 5 sections, I'll just click over here and I'll say, I see that you submitted 10 minutes before the deadline. I would suggest that you try to submit earlier next time. They can also print, if they look at it as a PDF, they will also get all of your feedback in a couple different ways, so they can see it on the screen. If they go to print it though, they will see it also all at the bottom. So they get sort of a nice page. They can see all of your comments in the area where you make them. Let me scroll down. There we go. But at the bottom, it will be sort of a synopsis of all the things that you said to them. So this was my note to her, and then these were all of the blue and purple comments I made along the way, so they have them in another spot as well. And they also, for our grad students, they then have this as graded material they need for their portfolios. I don't know if you need portfolios, but one of the biggest complaints with students is that, well, if I submit things online, I don't always get a lot of feedback, and I don't have graded assignments for portfolios, but now they have something that's been graded, has a grade on it, and it has lots of comments on it. So they can use it for assessment purposes too.
Where's the grade?
I put their grade, they all know this because I do a little video demo that I post, but I put their grade down here, right in the text. Now I could put it here and it would show it in Turnitin. However, Turnitin does not allow you to give half points for grades. So if I wanted to give a 12.5 out of 15, I can't do that, and I want to do that. So I don't use the actual grade part here. I hope this is one of the things that is different now that it's going to automatically be in Blackboard.
Well,
Dennis,
you
I don't
should-
know
if
if
you go
you
to
know.
my can you go over to her, to Caitlin, if you go to my Blackboard,
I may
I
have
had her
deleted.
page up.
Okay, I may have deleted it already or closed that window.
Is that?
Yeah, you're closed out. But the one thing I don't like is that I couldn't give the half points, and my grading would be out of 15. So many people would have half points or quarter points or
So
something.
you would have to resubmit it to Blackboard then?
So no, because, well, I don't use it through Blackboard yet. This is all through Turnitin. So then I would take their grades and I would enter them into Blackboard or enter them into my grade sheet, however you're using it. I don't know if the one that loads onto Blackboard now will just give you whatever freedom you want to put a grade in.
So if I've gone to Blackboard where I created the assignment, and I go to course tools, and I go to Turnitin assignments, and I think IFD workshop is where I actually uploaded Caitlin's paper. Let's see if this is right. And so let's say I've been in grade mark and I made, of course this is the same paper, but it's down in my class. If I go up here, I had set, remember when I created this assignment, I made it worth 10 points. So if I click on here, and I put 9.5, and hit enter, what does it say?
Yeah.
Because the request was invalid or complete, so.
It doesn't let you do
But it kept it now, so let me,
Yeah.
so there's 9.5, and then let me use this as a teaching moment here, because when you go actually to this assignment here, my eyesight was just so very bad, my glasses, I left them at the, well, back here now where it says IFD workshop, let's say you've gone through all your students and you've entered the grades where I just did, you go back to the assignment and you say sync grades, and now that will populate those grades into your grade book. So let's go to your grade book in the course here in
Yeah, there's no easy way to go backwards, I've noticed.
well,
in
yeah, there was,
Blackboard either.
if I should just grab my glasses,
Yeah.
but I apologize for taking everybody. So when I go to the grade book now, full grade center, and I look for that assignment called
No, there's none for.
9.5, so it did take it.
Yeah,
Even
it
though
does
it
the
said it
same,
didn't
it
want
does
to.
the same thing on Turnitin, but then it doesn't stick. I found that I'll go back and the grade disappeared.
But it only syncs it after you do all
Yes.
What if you do batches, will it sync as you go along? Or
No,
you lose it?
no, so, well, it doesn't lose any of it.
Stays in
It
Turnitin.
doesn't lose, it stays in Turnitin. Oh, no, it stays in Turnitin. But if you wanted to sync it, because you're really at Turnitin here when you're doing all this. When you go back to Blackboard, and you were in Turnitin assignments and the course tools, now we're in Blackboard, and now when we hit sync grades, it takes everything, all the grade part off of the Turnitin server and populates it right into the grade column in Blackboard. And let me just say that the minute you create a Turnitin assignment in Blackboard, it creates a grade column in Blackboard, titled
So
whatever
similar
you
to
call it. So you don't need to create a grade column.
What if there are grade changes that are done individually? Is that done through Turnitin again? And then it'll update
Well, you
the
certainly,
Blackboard?
it depends. Like, you have to think about the fact that students could be going into Turnitin and looking at their paper at Turnitin, and if they see 9.5 there, but you've gone in your course and done a manual override within the grade
They won't
column,
see it.
then which one, so you probably would be best to make your grade change and turn it in, and then always just remember at some point to just sync your grades.
You asked about an APA default. What about MLA? How do you set up which?
That would be in Turnitin, though.
It would be somewhere in Turnitin. I don't know, because we don't use MLA in my discipline, so I'm not sure about that.
So the default is APA?
The default, it says you can click on a style. I don't know if the other option is MLA. I think there are two options. But it's not going to give you anything substantive as a result of that. Anything that you want to give, it's not really going to give examples of MLA or APA. It will just give you a link that says, students, you did this incorrectly. Here's a link to MLA or APA. So if you want anything substantive on there, you would have to create your own marks to give them examples.
But that's, whatever you choose is the standard against which it's assessing those 5 categories.
Right, right.
So if you use ASA, that doesn't help.
Then I don't think it matters
Right.
either way, right?
I've had a lot of students over time. I've only taught my course for 3 years, but it seems like it's happened quite often. No matter what you try to explain to them regarding what unintentional plagiarism is, or isn't, right? Or what plagiarism is, a lot of them will just think, I've had students turn in a paper where they literally cut and pasted content and did it in the most creative way possible, that it becomes the sentences flow and it becomes a full paper, and then when they look at the original report, they see that all of it's been copied from where they know they got it from. And then they properly cite everything, and I have to explain to them that why that's, based on my assignments, that's not acceptable. But then when I use MLA style, and I actually link them out to the Purdue OWL website, which is a great MLA, MLA style sheets and et cetera and stuff like that. And I'm not exactly, and I may have done a setting at one time, but when you do hover over some of the Turnitin generated comments regarding, I think, style, it does seem to bring up, it does mention about where it sends them out to an MLA website. So I can try to find that real quick to see.
Okay, look in your assignment when you
Right.
start an assignment.
Yeah. So if I go back to our course content area to create an assignment.
And Marissa, you mentioned before there was something that you could give me to send out. What was that you?
I have from when I wrote point and click instructions we did sort of a technical workshop, Caroline Gutierrez and I, in January. And it's basically how to create comments, how to create those bubbles, how to get rid of them, how to create those sets if you want to create a set for each class, the easiest way to do that, how to do a voice comment, what ETS does, that kind of
That's what I was
stuff.
wondering. Do you get to determine it somewhere, or does it determine it for you, or?
I don't see it here.
Scroll out a little.
I'm wondering if it's.
It might be when you set up your account.
You know, you think you'd
It
want
might be in
that.
your account setup, like when you first set yourself up.
Huh?
I don't know.
We could certainly look into that.
Yeah.
What is?
Maybe under libraries. Oh, these are the rubrics.
Certainly look into it and get back to you. Do you? What is your name?
Rosemary Sproles.
Oh, you're Rosemary. Okay. I'll email you. Okay. I will look into that and I'll try to email you. Any other questions anybody has? Everybody feel like, out of everyone here, no one here has used Turnitin except Joe, right?
I've used it limited. I have not used it integrated with Blackboard. That's what I'm looking at the next step.
And let me also mention, if you go to Turnitin's website,
No, I'd be
Might
much more
one of
likely
those
to use it
drop-down
after seeing
things.
this
Yeah.
now.
See under instructor in English. Try under English. It's something now that I'm seeing that, I'm remembering that it
User
was
preferences?
maybe
or-
under somewhere out there, maybe user info
using
next to my name, yeah. I remember doing it in the very beginning and not since then.
There's that other tab up there that says preferences, is that it?
Well, I went to that. No, I can't. Where's preference? It's gone, right? So go back to, let me go back to here.
I'm thinking it's really in the account setup, because I remember doing it in the very beginning and really not doing it since then.
Take it further.
Yeah.
No, okay. I thought that would bring me to preferences.
But I don't know. I think it's really a time saver. Do any of you grade online now? So you have like a weird. What kind of system do you use?
I'm using it through. I was doing it through Microsoft Review, but
Okay.
this term I've switched to the Blackboard, and it's
Okay.
cumbersome.
And that's why initially I had used Turnitin, because it was there was no like downloading, grading, and uploading,
Right.
and that
Yeah.
was taking
yeah,
me forever at my previous institution. So when Turnitin came along, and it was like, whoa, I could easily download things and look at things, and now GradeMark, it just saves it all up on the server.
Which is what Blackboard
So
does
much
now.
better.
The main
Yeah.
problem is it's not a full screen. You're working on about a
Okay.
1/3, 2/3 screen.
In Turnitin, you can adjust how wide your bar
Yeah.
is for the
And that's what you
comments,
don't have
and if
that.
you want to make the whole screen as big as the paper, you can do that. But that was really one of the reasons why I switched,
Yeah.
because the whole download process was so, I mean, the time I spent just getting things ready to grade was so much.
Well, that was really helpful, you guys. I appreciate it, and we'll try to
Any link
include the
that she sends you,
IFD.
if you get out to us,
I'll
that'd be
try to
great.
disseminate it.
Oh, yeah.
And the next IFD newsletter, when I summarize the brown bags, if the document is of a size, I'll include it in that for people, and if not, I'll include a link to it.
Yeah, it's a
so.
one-pager, but if you want to put it up somewhere and then
Yeah.
link to it, that's
Yep.
fine.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
All right, thanks.
And real quick, if you go to Turnitin's website, turnitin.com, and you go to training, and under instructor training, and they have a wealth of tutorials, video tutorials, like Camtasia files that you can view. Let's just go into that page right now. That reviews a lot of the different.
It's not available through iPad, though. You have to do it on. I saw a disclaimer.
Here they are.
Okay.
So you see a number. Excuse me, Joe.